Okay, well, as I say, here we are, 29th of June 2019, hottest day of the year so far. So I've come into my garden studio to try and paint this lovely scene of the old lifeboat shed at Blakeney. I put on the basic washers. Now we're going to start looking at the main building, the focal point. And for that, I'm going to mix cobalt blue with, it's a blue colour, and I'm going to mix cobalt blue with a touch of Prussian. Now I think that's probably about as near as we're going to get to that particular colour with the palette that I've got. Let's see how we get on. It needs to be a bit greener than that, so I'm going to add some raw sienna. Just looking at it, needs to be greener than that. Let's see what we get with raw sienna. There we go, that's better. That's pretty much as good as we're going to get, I think, on that. There we go. Okay, so let's proceed with the back edge of the building. Painting in, remembering to leave some little sections unpainted where the white surround of the roof, we've got a white surround. There's a window there. Don't be too fussy with this. I do advocate painting without too much of the fussy detail. So if you leave a little patch of white here and there, not a major problem. It always gives a nice feel. There is a surround to the and there's a couple of figures. Now I need perhaps to leave those white. I'm going to introduce a couple of figures into that foreground. Okay, so that's that. It's drying very, very quickly, as you can imagine, on this day. It is in sunlight, although there's a lot of cloud. The building will be in sunlight, so that's something that we need to be aware of when we get tone, when we're looking at tone. And the roof is also very light. That runs across there. There's some little windows little dormers that stick out into the roof. They have an interesting little area, and it's somewhere that we really ought to try and show to a big degree. And this roof is also, that could be treated with just a little bit of white left. I think that leaves a lot nice glint to that. And then finally, for the building, we've got it's like the tower of the old lifeboat shed, used today as a it's a nature reserve where people can stay, I believe, and also during certain time of the year when the little terns tend to when they actually just thinking how I need to do that door, the little terns tend to nest on the beach, and they are quite an endangered species, and they need a full-time warden to actually make sure that their nesting is not disturbed, which is rather a shame, but that's people run the dogs around there. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to do the distant building as well. Now that is a red tile roof. I think it's more of a small little visitor centre. I'm not really certain. We never got that close to this building, but I'm going to use for that roof Indian red. Now that's a lovely red, and I'm going to put with that, I want it quite dark, so I'll put with that ultramarine. Let's try cobalt first. Cobalt, there we go. We do have the roof, and I'm depicting this as if it's in shadow. So that's quite dark against the light. And the chimney, of course. Big old chimney there on the end. And we can see a touch of that roof there. So that's always a useful area. We'll just see the end of it. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to paint these trees along the back. Now these are just going to be dark blue, bluey green. Don't want to be too strong in colour. I'm going to start off with cobalt blue and raw sienna, and well, they're not really trees, it's part of the old, using the side of the brush here, part of the dunes that you get in this sort of area. A little bit of brokenness to that one, a little bit more added colour to that one. But as we go away into the distance, I'm going to introduce more blue and a little bit more water, just purely to try and give them a depthy sort of feel. This one will shape up the side of that building, and that's really, I would say, more or less sufficient for that. Those are getting it to come together. Now I'm going to do that lovely sandbank there. Well, that's just raw sienna really. A little bit stronger than we've had before. Quite spiky, we've got quite grasses, sad grasses on top of that bank. We will be, that will be light later, so we've got shadow there, so I'm going to go down and make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to put a bit of burnt umber with that. So if you want to make like that sort of colour darker, don't just simply add blue to it. Always interesting to add another colour, because if you don't, then unfortunately, quite often it you know, it kills the colour. You know, nice bit of warmth there, a bit more little touches of that running up into that area there. We are. So let's give a nice little softness to that. Now, one boat I'm going to have, it's going to be warm, so it's got to be an orange colour. So I'm using light red and cadmium yellow. Try and get myself an orange. Not a strong orange, but it does. We've got the blue, so I need an orange. I'm going to put a blue with that as well, but let's use that to start with. So this is an orangey sort of colour. So that's that boat there. It's laying up onto the. There we go. And a little bit lighter. It's laying up onto the beach. A bit more water in that for the stern at the back, because that will be lighter colour in sunlight. And the other one is quite simply cobalt blue. Nothing simpler than that. We've got warm and cool colours there, and that one sits behind that very nicely. Shadows will go in later, but it's quite simply a job of laying in base colours really. A little bit lighter again for the bow, or sorry, the stern. Very light there. Nice bit of sunlight on that. Shadow will show that up later. Okay, so that's that. Now I'm going to go back to the building and I'm going to paint in the windows. Quite simple. Ultramarine, burnt umber. Same two colours we used for the clouds. And a bit more blue in there. Just want them quite dark. Give them a bit of punch. I always like to see windows with a little bit of punch to them. The glazed areas. And just quickly watching where they come. There's, you know, I'm not being fussy. If you notice, I'm not even depicting their frames. It really is just simplicity that will give us the desired effect. There's two windows there, two there. There's a window here. Just depict. Straight across with two longer ones. So straight across, two longer ones, just to ring the changes. And a window there, and there is another one there that I forgot to leave white, but it's not a problem. So that's the windows, and the glazed area above actually shows the sky, so we need a grey for that. A weak grey, burnt umber, ultramarine, and it's not as dark as the sky along the back, but it is the sky coming through. So consequently, that's the way we depict that, leaving the white framework. Now, so although you can see the sky through, there's reflection in the glass. Okay, now there's a very dark roof that slopes away here from a small building that stands on the back edge of that. Not sure what that is, but let's just call that small building along the back edge there. Okay, so that's it's along the back, and it's looking good. Yep, nothing too fussy there. And also, this is going to be quite dark too. It's the boardwork from the building that's behind the and it's quite uneven there. So extend that just to give that a a bit of sense of the edge of that building as well. There we go, just so it's not too much of a... Right, now I'm going to concentrate on the boat now. I'm going to do the actual masts themselves, burnt umber, and as you know, masts tend to taper, so they're very little area there, and they taper to something a little wider. As I say, the looser you've been with everything else, the looser you can actually be with the masts. And the actual area at the front, we've got the sails. Now some of them may be white, but I'm going for a reddy sail, something different that we've not used before. Pinky red, so that would be alizarin crimson. That's the sails that are actually laying down on the boom. Yeah. And the other one, well, it could be white, so we'll just do the shadow work on that. Figures, let's do flags. So, you know, it's just blue and, yellow. I don't know what colours they have on flags. Anyway, let's just do cobalt blue to start. And all you do, you lay a rigger on the mast and you just flip away. There we are. And that is as simple as that. Going to do a red sail now on the other one, a red flag, and this one doesn't quite have that sharpness, just to give it a bit of a, don't want them both the same, but basically that's it. Figures, well, there again, I'm going to bring in some yellows here for the